proceed anywhere further in this debate, there's one critical question that remains to be answered. And surprisingly, that question is very simple. What is the military? Now, we heard a side opposition that said, by allowing the military to speak, somehow they will assail the society that houses it. Yet at the same time, they said that in the status quo, the military is allowed to complain. Well, that's a blatant contradiction. Because in the status quo, if the military is afforded freedom of speech, then at the same time, why is there no civil wars that is a result of military action? Well, pursuant to that ground, ladies and gentlemen, we said that their case is not based on the real world, and we said that their case does not stand at all. In fact, what you heard side proposition tell you in this debate is that the military gives their limbs, their lives, in order to defend their country. How is it that the country that benefits most from their patriotism does not give back by guaranteeing them the fundamental rights to the democracy that they so seek to protect? We said that's fundamental contradiction, and we're giving least to those who gave most. And under that Team 9, as the government whip, I'm going to ask you two very simple questions to ask you to propose. Number one, should we give free speech to soldiers? Number two, sit down, sir. What will be the effects? Now let's ask the first question. Should we give free speech to soldiers? Now we fundamentally told you from the very beginning, Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, that free speech is a concept that is ingrained in our democratic society. That's something that they never came back to. No thank you, sir. By trying to defend democracy, you lose one of its fundamental principles. Now what's the point of trying to protect that democracy? And we challenge their wit to attack that point. Now, we also told you that these soldiers are the ones who gave most. Again, another point that they never came back to. We told you about the tales of sacrifice in terms of the tours of duty, the World War II veterans, yet they never gave an answer. What's an answer? 3, most importantly, we've told you in our Deputy Prime Minister's speech how military criticism can improve the status quo. We gave you an example of awakening councils and Afghanistan, how military policies were improved by allowing soldiers to speak out against the government and to improve the military policies. And that's another answer that we request from the opposition with defender stance.
You see, that's going to happen in our model as well, because we allow these soldiers to speak directly to the government. And thus
well, that's funny. Let me deal with your counter-proposal right now. You said that after the end of service, the soldiers can speak up. You can do that in the status quo. After your service ends, then you're classified as a civilian. But I would like to point out a contradiction anyway. Now, what's the difference by allowing combat troops to criticize the government and having ex-veterans do that? Because if that was true, then it's going to still foment instability, thereby decreasing foreign investment. At the same time, it's going to increase a demographic, a certain voting demographic that is unilateral in view. And in that case, it's going to also foment societal instability. So we say that your counter-proposal is contradictory, incompatible with the arguments that you brought out to this table, and you say that your case does not stand. Another point that they brought up in their counter-proposal is that this idea somehow soldiers can leave the military whenever they wish. Ladies and gentlemen, in most countries in the world, you have something called mandatory military service. I would know. I would have to go in 2 years. Now, if that was such the case, how would soldiers be allowed to leave the military whenever they wish? If they refuse military service in most countries, then you have something called jail sentence. And that's something that most soldiers don't want. Secondly, even in the case of the United States, we told you that the tours of duty have been extended indefinitely because of the fact that the freedom of speech has not been extended to every single individual. And we've also consistently told you that even in the most advanced democracies like the United States, that their policy and their counter-proposal doesn't stand. And we said that they brought a flawed model to the table today. Now, I'm going to be talking to you about another idea that they brought up. This idea of societal contract, how soldiers waived rights to fight for their country. 2 points of refutations. Number one, they just asserted that soldiers somehow waived some rights in order to get there. They didn't specify what kind of rights that they waived, nor did they give any reason to do so based on our statutory laws, Constitution, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, or any such things. They just asserted it, they didn't prove it, and we say it wasn't substantiated. Second point of refutation. Well, they brought up with this idea of classified information, how soldiers would violate that and propagate that to the public should they be able to speak publicly. But the thing is, ladies and gentlemen, even in the status quo, because such information is classified, they're not allowed to reveal it, even pursuant to civil law. So regardless of our policy, such classified information would still legally be protected. Now, they said that the media is not the right way to propagate information, but they never told us why. It was just like one sentence. So we would like to hear from their opposition with why precisely it is that the paramount medium of propagating information about the public is not acceptable. And we would like to extend the challenge to side opposition at this point. How come is it that other civil servants, such as senators, House representatives can criticize the government, yet at the same time get away with it, even gain respect and political capital, while at the same time soldiers are not to do that very noble goal of civil disobedience, trying to improve the policies that galvanize the government. We say that was a point that was never proven by side opposition, and we challenge them to prove why soldiers should be singled out. No, thank you, sir. Second issue that I'm going to deal with. What will be the consequences? Now, opposition came up to this podium and painted a picture by which a society lives in perpetual fear of the military. And they said, and their reasoning for that was because the military be given the right to speak, and then somehow that leads to military leading a coup d'etat. Ladies and gentlemen, we say that there's no relevant correlation here. In fact, that's my second point of refutation. By allowing the military to speak out, you give them a platform by which they can voice their dissent, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is what's going to prevent coup d'etats. By giving the military a voice in civil government, allow them to speak out their concerns, at least in formulating public policy, we say that's the way to decrease military aggression, not the way to help it. That's exactly why the military in the Honduras recently waged a coup d'etat against the government there. And we say that their case against that totally doesn't stand. Also, they gave us this idea how the military has only one view. No, they don't. I think that's simple enough for work. Also, they brought up this idea that there's a difficulty in military operation. 2 points of refutation. Number one, we made it very clear in our policy that we won't allow soldiers to speak out during the middle of military operation, and we think that that stance is something that was very clear throughout and consistent throughout the proposition case. Secondly, we say it's going to actually improve military operations. We've already given you an example of the awakening councils, how in Iraq, how current soldiers were able to recruit the Sunni militias in order to improve the U.S. situation there. If that happened earlier, 4 or 5 years, that would save trillions of dollars and thousands of human lives, including civilians and soldiers. And we say that was a good policy. Also, they have this idea about how we will lose foreign investment. Now, 3 points of refutation. Number one, foreign investors like democracy. Simple fact. In fact, democracy is what brings stability. Secondly, how would it be unstable if military personnel certainly wrote an article in Time magazine, and we say that their point about instability simply doesn't stand. This debate boils down to a very simple question, ladies and gentlemen. Which team had their case grounded on reality? And it was side proposition. We say that we are giving these to those who gave those, and I beg you to propose. Thank you very much.